During the extreme sports rush of the late 90s, several video games hit the market to capitalize on these new obsessions, including snowboarding. While skateboarding hit a more prominent vein in the gaming osmosis thanks to a Mr. Hawk, there were quite a few options if you wanted to strap on your virtual board and hit the slopes. Games like Sonic Adventure and Final Fantasy VII incorporated snowboarding into the experience, and fans of the sport had plenty of options for dedicated games. On the N64, you had Big Mountain 2000, Twisted Edge Extreme Snowboarding, and the fan-favorite 1080 Snowboarding, all of which took a realistic approach to the sport. But another game took things in a different direction. In addition to its cartoonish visual style, it took the speed and curving action of snowboarding and combined it with the wacky, seat-of-your-pants gameplay of Mario Kart. The first game released in 1997, and while it, and the series it spawned, was a minor success, since the mid-2000s it's been left in the dust, or I guess you could say, in the snow? And today, I'm looking back on that first title to see if it deserves one more run. This was the second Rakdim game published by Atlus, as they'd previously collaborated on the 1996 fighter Heaven's Gate. Rakdim, of course, is now known as Rakjin, and as of at least 2022, they're still active in the industry. And Atlus, well, you know their name by now for sure. Heaven's Gate directors Hideki Yayama and Takeshi Murata also helmed this project, with Rakdim artist Miki Mikami working on graphic design. At the time of its development, Japan was gearing up to host the 1998 Winter Olympics in Nagano, where, as it so happens, snowboarding was set to make its Olympic debut. So clearly the sport was on the mind of the Japanese public, which surely influenced Rakdim to try their hand at a kid-friendly snowboarding title. Initially released in Japan in December 1997 as Snowbo Kids, it came to the West and Europe in March 1998. Mario Kart 64 and Diddy Kong Racing both had a stranglehold on the kart racer market at the time, but this game stood as a unique alternative. Unique in the vehicle choice at least, because as far as setup and story goes, it's your typical kart racer affair. Up in the Canadian Rockies, there's a village where children love snowboarding, and at school one day, they're bickering about who's the best on the slopes. Linda Maltini, the rich daughter of a business owner, declares that she'll hold a competition, and all the other kids jump on board. Literally, as they tackle a series of downhill tracks built onto large mountains and plains. Take first place via the main battle race mode and you'll win a gold cup, and then get a special pass once you nab all the cups so you can unlock characters that you can play as on new levels so you can get more cups and passes until you just can't take the cold anymore. Now, you might expect a 5th gen racer to feel stiff, but the basic mechanics are still pretty tight. You get a good sense of speed with a few twists and turns along the way, with 2 kinds of turning power to let you navigate down winding paths. There's no braking, so successfully taking corners and avoiding obstacles is down to your ability to make sharp turns, or use the uphill terrain to correct your angle. Even on a less than pristine N64 controller, I made some sweet maneuvers and saves. Maybe the tricks felt difficult, but that's because the system works a bit differently. Rather than doing inputs in the air, you select a direction as you hold down A, and then you'll do the trick automatically when you jump. You can't chain tricks together, although you can add a grab with the C buttons to score more coins. Every character has unique tricks done by inputting a sequence before you jump, and I had a hard time launching these sometimes, though I'm willing to blame that on my controller. Snowboard Kids makes some solid innovations to adapt the races for the downhill style, because while you're constantly moving toward an endpoint, the races are still lap-based. That's why you'll need to reach the ski lift at the end of each lap to get back to the top of the mountain, but since only one racer is allowed to enter at a time, it often becomes a struggle to get buzzed through. And since you can't stop quickly, you'll frequently slam right into the wall if the lift isn't open, making it very likely that someone behind you can jump right ahead. Thanks to the items, it's not usually a game changer, yet it can disrupt your lead if you aren't careful. You can pick up those items on the course by hitting these presents, but they cost money, and if you don't have enough coins, you'll be knocked aside for being a greedy little gremlin. And sometimes the shops get in your way as they respawn, because for some reason, they have solid collision even as they refresh. That's one of the game's little annoyances, but the items themselves are fantastic. They hit the perfect kart racer curve where you love using them against your opponents, but you hate it when they're used against you, especially if you get hit at the right moment. You can hold 2 at one time, one offensive shot that's launched in front of you and home in slightly on opponents, and one defensive item that has more widespread effects. While some have direct Mario Kart counterparts, the designers got pretty creative with their ideas. For the shots, the glove is pretty effective at knocking your opponent down, and the bombs, well, these kinda suck because they're only really effective at far range unless you like getting caught in your own blast. The freeze shot fares much better, stopping your opponent in their tracks and creating a wall you need to board around. My two favorite shots are the snowman, which forces the recipient in one direction, usually careening them into a wall, and the beast that is the parachute. This baby launches you into the air, and getting hit with this before a jump is devastating. It can stop you for 10 or 15 seconds in the wrong spots. Seriously. But your item slot also has some worthwhile gear, such as the fan that gives you a speed boost, the rock which lays on the track and trips people up, or the invisible item that makes you impervious to attacks. There's also the pans, which knock down everybody else and are awesome to unleash when you're behind, and the ghost, which slows down the boarder in first. Not only does this avoid the blue shell problem by targeting the runner up if you launch it while you're ahead, but the ghosts can stack, seriously dampening your lead if you're unlucky. The rarest item, the rat face, steals everyone else's coins, which can give you a significant advantage towards the end of a race since players will have stocked up on cash, and is a great way to farm money for the unlockables. It's because of the items that races are often pretty damn close, especially towards the end. The rubber banding is fair and consistent, punishing the leader and helping the others appropriately, and the items balance that out even more. It's certainly possible to just pull ahead to an insurmountable lead, but it's very tightly contested most of the time. It can sometimes feel stacked against you though, especially if you fall down on a flat piece of ground. There isn't a good way to accelerate besides going down a slope, and if you're hit on a flat polygon, you'll have to hobble your way back up to speed. With proper timing, you can jump or dodge out of the way of an item before it hits you, which is pretty neat, and the exclamation mark makes for a solid visual cue that you're in danger. And if you are looking for a pure snowboarding experience, you can turn both coins and item shops off, forcing you to rely on knowing the track and maintaining your speed. But the best way to get ahead is to choose the right character and board. Given that every character is so young, you'd expect a lot of typical childish tropes, and yeah, you do kinda get that, but I still like this roster, bare as it is. There's Slash Kamei, your average preteen boy archetype with all-around stats, a friendly but self-centered kid who's really passionate about snowboarding. Nancy Neal, the kind-hearted foundation of the group, is a great beginner character thanks to her low speed and better board control. Jam Kunemun's a little more technical with an emphasis on jumps and tricks, and while his music-loving Jamaican attributes won't come until later, he's probably my favorite kid design-wise in the first game. Linda Maltini is my favorite to play as, fast on the slopes but with just enough control for experts to make tight turns. Considering this tournament exists so Linda could prove she's the best, she'd have to have the skills to back it up, I suppose. Technically, Tommy Parsee's got more speed, but his lack of control makes him a poor character, and that's matched with his personality as the big dumb one, constantly eating hamburgers, the wimpy to Slash's Popeye, if you will. This is all stuff you have to infer from their designs and animations, or interpret from the manual, because if you just pick a track and go, you won't know anything about these kids. It's not until the credit sequence that they exhibit any kind of interaction outside of quick voice clips, and it's cute, but it's also too little too late. Snowboard Kids 2, this ain't. There's only one credited voice actor for the English version, Lonnie Manella, who's perhaps most famous for voicing Nancy Drew in Rouge the Bat. You can definitely tell that she's voicing multiple characters at once, and the ones that sound different are just recycling the Japanese dialogue. And even then, the kids can't compare to the best character in the series, Mr. Dog. Look at this guy, he's a big woofer selling boards and paint jobs and looking like a doofus. What's not to love?
Welcome!
There are 3 types of regular boards to choose from. Freestyle boards are the slowest, but have the best cornering and trick potential. Alpine boards have great speed at the cost of control, and all-around boards are all around, as you might have guessed. You can upgrade these boards at Mr. Dog's shop for better stats, although I think this just increases the speed, which is handy, but it means the boards never go beyond their initial concept. I also like how you can customize the look of each board, although the options are limited. I wanted to do themes for each set, like natural browns and tans for Alpine and black contrasts for all around, but there just aren't enough designs to make that work. Snowboard Kids holds up well in the gameplay department, but what makes it special? Well, the character designs and snowboarding gimmicks for one, and the music by Isao Kasai and Tomohiko Sato, which has some awesome tracks. Shout out to Grass Valley and Silver Mountain, those songs are killer. I'll say this, it's not the extra single player modes though. Beyond the self-explanatory time attack, there are also 3 skill games which I don't really enjoy. I do like Shot Game, where you have to shoot snowmen targets down the track, as it rewards speed and maneuverability, and these snowmen probably deserve it, so blow them up to your heart's content. Trick Game makes you perform tricks to score more points, which is fine in concept, but it amounts to doing the same inputs repeatedly on one half-pipe, and I find it pretty lame. And Speed Game is more or less another time attack and isn't even worth talking about. Curious that there's no slalom mode, but I guess they wanted to go more wild with it, you know? Like every snowboarding game had a trick course and a slalom race, so I get why they'd want to try something different. While these extra modes are a mixed bag, the main mode is still fun thanks to the courses, of which you have 6 to start, but you'll unlock 3 more by coming in first place on each track. Rookie Mountain starts you off fast with rapid laps and smooth turns for an appropriate first level, and then the game ups the ante with the long stretches of Big Snowman and the rocky hazards of Sunset Rock. Night Highway kicks things into high gear with darker lighting and more dangerous terrain, and looks pretty damn cool. As an aside, despite some inevitable pop-in issues on the N64, this game holds up very well visually, with simple textures making these models pop. Back to the tracks, Grass Valley abandons the snow theme entirely and has some of the tightest turns in the initial courses, making it a personal favorite. I'm sure it's not at all accurate to snowboarding down grass, but considering I've never ridden a snowboard, nor can I even recall the last time I've seen a snowboard in real life, I guess I'm not one to judge. Anyway, there's the amusement park Dizzyland, which doesn't use its concept well, teacup ride notwithstanding, though it does have some decent terrain to snowboard down. It's easy to memorize each track and find shortcuts, and since you only need to come in first once on each level, you'll knock them out with enough practice. And you'll want to practice, as the unlockable goodies are something else. Buying all the regular boards nets you the ice board, which is useless. See, the game even says so. Its incredibly loose turning and only alright speed make it a bane on most courses. The feather board is far better, as its lower gravity gives you more airtime, but unlocking this means beating trick mode, so, you know, Oh, real quick, I wanted to mention something. The GameFAQs guide I consulted to check my progress said that you needed to get 2,500 points in trick mode to get the feather board, which is doable, but challenging. But a comment I saw said that it's 2,000 points, and that the guide is wrong. I wanted to confirm this for myself since you're not going to find this information in the game or the manual, but on my successful run, I smashed the 2,000 and 2,500 point barrier in one swoop, meaning I couldn't get an answer. So I guess it's a mystery for the ages, unless one of you knows the truth, please let me know. Anyway, beating all 6 courses unlocks Quicksand Valley, which is the hardest track in the game. Tight corners, devious jumps, and plenty of areas with no guardrails make this a tricky level indeed. If you beat that, you go to Silver Mountain, which is enjoyable thanks to its foggy atmosphere, and consider that this isn't just distance fog either. You can see a longer rendering distance on other tracks, so this is intentional. While the track is mostly straight, it does have claustrophobic corridors and impending danger, and somehow, I was able to take the gold on my first try with my least favorite character, Tommy no less. Thus, it was on to the finale, Ninja Land, a 9-lap track that I don't care for. It looks incredible, I love the rural Japanese aesthetic and the cherry blossoms, but the track is too short to be exciting. Pass this course and you unlock Shinobin, who, in addition to having unique boards, has the best stats and is broken, as well as the Star Board, which has the best stats and is broken. I guess it's appropriate that your ultimate reward is the best stuff, but I wish this course wasn't the capstone. And you can't play as Mr. Dog, so 0 out of 10, get out of my face. That aside, what Snowboard Kids lacks in variety, it makes up for with excellent gameplay, a fun difficulty curve, and oodles of charm. It's a great companion to other kart races of the era, and proof that you could do something original rather than just copy Mario Kart. This is my first time finishing SK1 as I'm more familiar with the sequel, but issues aside, this one was still a blast. However, the N64 wasn't the only console to catch Snowboard Kids fever, as this game was later given a Japan-exclusive enhanced PlayStation port in 1999. It contains new characters and features and is all in Japanese, but fan translations do exist. Shout out to the Snowboard Kids World community for compiling all that. Because of that, I can dive into the new lore, and yes, there is lore. According to Plus, Linda won the competition, and you might call that nepotism, but she is the best character, so shut your mouth. Anyway, she's still bragging about it a few days later when another girl, Nicole Couch, enters the scene. Nicole's dad heads a different corporation and the girls are not on good terms. Nicole invites everyone to a new competition to rub it into Linda's face, which everyone's on board with. I swear, I am not doing that intentionally. But the ladies can't resist making an additional wager. If Linda loses, she has to eat spaghetti through her nose, and if Nicole loses, she has to eat peanuts through her eyes. I am 100% not making this up. I can't comment too much on the story because while I'm grateful for the translations, it's not an authentic experience. There are character endings, but while the animatics can help you figure out what's happening, there's just not much to comment on. So Plus is a port disguised as a quasi-sequel because while its story is new, the game is otherwise SK1 on the PlayStation. You have the same tracks and the entire roster returns with some additions. I already talked about Nicole, but there's Pamela Resteri, the Hollywood superstar child actress who's rarely seen around school, and Ruby Green, a muscular kid who, I have it on good authority, is Superman. None of the new cast really wows me, and considering none of them were brought back, I don't think Rakdim and Atlus were that keen on them either. Nicole and the unlockable ninja Kaede are carbon copies of Linda and Shinobin respectively, Pamela feels too similar to Nancy, and Ruby feels too similar to Tommy. Not that the base roster was expansive, but in Plus, even with just 10 characters, it's overstuffed. What I do like is that you can unlock different costumes for each boarder and even change their hair color, which gives you more incentive to build up your purse, even if some of these costumes are bizarre to say the least. The snowboarding feels a bit tighter, although that might be the PlayStation's faster processing power granting more controller inputs per second. Most of the gameplay changes are minor, such as being able to shoot the bombs backward, which makes hitting something more of a gamble, but it is far less self-dangerous. You can only do this for the bombs, but the other shots are better used in front of you anyway, so I'm okay with it. I'm not okay with the autopilot function that automatically steers you to the ski lift when you reach the end though. You can turn it off, but it's an unnecessary handicap that messes with my intuition, especially after playing the N64 version. And if we're comparing this port directly to the original, this definitely took a hit in the visuals. You expect that to happen a little bit. PS1 model textures are usually more pixelated and the models are typically simpler, but Plus makes alterations that ruin some of these tracks. Partially because the color contrast is turned up, which isn't inherently bad, but it gives the game a moodier feel. Dizzyland suffers the worst, especially in the Teacup Ride, which is way more bare bones, and the Topiary Garden, which is too dark to see anything. The tracks are otherwise intact, but seeing these places look so drab is a shame. The CD quality music helps, but it's still based on sequenced songs, so it's not that much of an upgrade, although I dig the additional guitar riffs. It might sound like I'm being harsh on Plus, and I guess I am, but really, it's just the surface level stuff that bothers me. At its core, this is just SK1 on the PlayStation, and on that basis, it's still a good time. If there was a version of SK1 that had the additional content of Plus, but looked like the N64 game, it'd be the definitive version for sure. As it is, Snowboard Kids Plus is an interesting curiosity and footnote, but nothing more, although if you can understand Japanese, it might be up your alley. Whether you opt for the PlayStation port or want to try out the N64 version, Snowboard Kids has plenty of content and enjoyable gameplay to make this worth a playthrough even today. It may not be as popular as other kart races of the era, but it absolutely deserves to be remembered. And the fans who played it back in the day have been patiently waiting for another game since 2006, unfortunately. While there are 2 more Snowboard Kids games to talk about, which I will do at some point, as far as new titles are concerned, I'd be very shocked if Atlus and Rakdim wanted to revive this one. Plus, the game's relative obscurity, coupled with only enough sales to cover a small print run, means that this game is not inexpensive. eBay prices have actually gone down a bit since I bought my cartridges, but don't be surprised to see stray listings going for at least $60, and it's even worse for the sequel. If you can find a copy for cheap though, I highly recommend adding Snowboard Kids to your collection. It's a wintry wonder that shouldn't be ignored. If you like this look back at Snowboard Kids and you want to see more videos about forgotten video games, then give this video a like and make sure to subscribe. I've also got another video out right now where I look at every Pixar game released for the Game Boy and Game Boy Color, so please check that out as well. I'm the Great Jinjo, and I'll see you in the next video. Thanks for watching!